Hey guys, this is Omer from MMOs.com, doing the quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements of the week ending September 16th, 2019. This is episode number 217 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from GameGo regarding ArcheAge Unchained, and we finally have a release date for it. ArcheAge Unchained is the buy-to-play server for the game, is launching its test servers on September 23rd, and officially launching on September 30th. There's a lot of hype for this one because GameGo has promised that the cash shop for this version will sell only cosmetics and nothing that approaches pay for advantage. The server is launching with the 6.0 patch as well. You gotta hand it to ArcheAge for their creative business model splits. They're running the same game now with a free-to-play server, a progression server, and now a buy-to-play server as well. Again, it's launching on September 30th, so mark those calendars if you're hyped. Next up, press F in the chat, boys, because NeoWiz officially shut down the PC version of Bless Online. I'd say rest in peace, but I'd rather kick down the tombstone because this game was a complete scam. The Japanese, Korean, and Russian servers have also shut down some time ago, so the English version of the game was the last man standing. Bless Unleashed, though, the Unreal Engine 4 console version is still a thing and is set to launch into a beta sometime in November. I can't imagine anyone being hyped for it, but there was hype for the PC version, but that hype died down pretty quickly as the game was unplayably bad. So F in the chat for that NeoWiz's Bless Online. Up next, a bit of an interesting statistic came out this last week from Jagex regarding RuneScape. So before we talk about it, let me give you some context first. The UK government produced a report titled Immersive and Addictive Technologies that looked at microtransactions and loot boxes in online games. And in this report, the UK government asked Jagex some questions, and that makes sense because Jagex is based in the UK. So the interesting stat is that a cool 1/3 of all of Jagex's revenues come from microtransactions. And this figure kind of shocked me because old school RuneScape has way more players than regular RuneScape and doesn't really have microtransactions outside of bonds. Regular RuneScape, though, is completely pay to win and has tons of microtransactions, and apparently making bank off of them. So yeah, a cool 1/3 of all of RuneScape's revenues come from microtransactions. The other 2/3, of course, is from subscriptions. Next up, Caravan Stories. Remember that game? It was supposed to launch back in July, but that never happened. It did, however, launch just this last week on September 10th on the PS4. Oddly, the game is available on consoles and mobile in Japan, but is only available on the PS4 here in the West. There really aren't that many Japanese developed MMORPGs out there, so that alone piques my interest. I really like the JRPG look and feel of the game, and apparently it reached 2 million players in Japan. I wonder how it'll do here in the West. I would have done a first look for this one already, but I've never recorded on the PS4 before, and I totally should probably try figuring it out one day. But yeah, it's available on the PS4. Up next, DC Universe Online launched episode 35 Metal Part 1 on the PC, Xbox, Switch, and PS4. Kind of cool that they released it all on all platforms at once. The two-part update is based on DC's Dark Knight's Metal comic series and features a twisted version of Batman. Metal Part 1 includes a large-scale episode available to players level 15 and higher, new and returning superheroes and villains, a new storyline, new gear suits, and more. Part 2 for the update is set to launch later in December and will continue the story where Part 1 leaves off. DC Universe isn't a bad game either. It's one of the few action and MMORPGs out there, and it's not too popular on PC, but it's been doing pretty well on consoles, and one of the few superhero-themed MMORPGs out there as well. Next up, Hi-Res Studios, the company best known for Smite and Paladins, announced a new team-based shooter this last week titled Rogue Company, which will be a class-based shooter that promises action, tactics, and a ton of game modes. The game calls itself a class-based shooter, but that sounds like a fancy word for a hero shooter to me. But unlike Paladins, the visual look of Rogue Company is more realistic. The game is scheduled to launch sometime in 2020 for PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and the PC. The PC version will be available on the Epic Games Store exclusively, and it'll be cross-play compatible and cross-progression compatible, meaning you can play it across all devices and on the same character and the same account, which is pretty awesome. We do need to see more games be cross-play compatible. While Hi-Res hasn't talked too much about the game's business model just yet, I suspect it'll be free to play given the studio's past titles. Anyway, back to MMORPGs just for a second. Elder Scrolls Online's Dragonhold DLC launched on the public test server today on September 16th. Forgot what day of the week it is for a second. And it'll be the final chapter in the epic year-long saga. The upcoming DLC features a new zone, has 3 unique biomes, new quests, new world bosses, delves, and dragon hunts. And as with previous DLCs, Update 24 is going to be going live alongside the DLC. As with previous updates, Update 24 itself is going to be free to play, and it launches at the same time as the paid DLC. So Update 24 itself includes big performance improvements to the game, along with an overhaul of the game's looking for group system. And the DLC is available as an individual purchase or is included in the game's optional subscription. And the official launch for Dragonhold shouldn't be too far away now that it's on public test servers. Next up, Dauntless is transitioning from early access to full release on September 26th with its 1.0 version. The game officially launched in open beta back in May of 2018, but was in closed beta since August of 2017. So going from closed beta, where anyone can play, to full release is going to take about 2 years, which isn't too bad considering some games have spent many years in early access alone. So they're moving decently fast. The 1.0 update includes the Aether Unbound seasonal expansion, which adds a new Aether Striker weapons, a new Dire Behemoth, a new bounty system, a new hunt pass, and more. If you're looking for a Monster Hunter-like game to play, there really aren't that many other alternatives. Either you pay for Monster Hunter World or you play Dauntless for free. I think it's well worth checking out only because there aren't really that many other Monster Hunter-like games out there, especially free-to-play ones. Up next, Improbable, the company that owns and develops the mysterious SpatialOS technology, acquired the Seattle-based studio Midwinter Entertainment, and it's the first time Improbable bought a game studio. I expect they're going to be actually committing to making a game themselves using their tech, because apparently no one else can figure out how SpatialOS actually works. Every game that has tried to use SpatialOS in the past has been a bit of a disaster, so I think Improbable is actually trying to showcase technology with a game they developed themselves. Well, the studio they bought, at least, will help them out quite a bit. Anyway, this studio is working on a game called Scavengers, which you can see in the video in the background, which is an online class-based multiplayer shooter, which is players battling each other and fighting for survival in a frozen wasteland. This is interesting because SpatialOS was supposed to be technology that, if applied to MMORPGs, could revolutionize the MMO industry. I mean, maybe one day we'll see an MMO use SpatialOS. Maybe this will get us close to that day, but we'll see. Next up, NCSoft showed off some new Lineage 2M trailers this last week in anticipation of the game launching in South Korea later this year. Lineage 2M is actually pretty exciting, even though it's a mobile game, only because it's supposed to be a faithful recreation of Lineage 2 for mobile. It's not supposed to be the same autoplay nonsense we've seen in a lot of other mobile games, but actually Lineage 2. And Lineage 2, despite its age, is actually a pretty great game. Visually, it looks pretty great. The video you're seeing in the background is in-game graphics, apparently, and over 2 million players are registered for the beta in just 18 hours in South Korea. So people in South Korea, at least, are pretty hyped for this one, and to be honest, this is one mobile game I'd like to try, only because it's meant to be like the PC version of Lineage 2, so if it lives up to that, I think it could be really good. Next and last bit of news this week is a bit of housekeeping. I forgot to mention this one earlier. It's decently big news, so worth mentioning now. Wargaming revealed a new third-person shooter called Caliber last month, and Wargaming is the company behind World of Tanks, one of the most successful free-to-play games ever, really. Now, Wargaming has slapped their name on a few other games in the past, but unlike those games, which Wargaming just published, they're actually actively developing Caliber alongside a studio called 1C Games. Closed beta signups are open already, but there's no date for when that actually begins just yet. And this isn't just another tactical shooter, though. Firstly, it's third-person, and it'll be both PvE and PvP focused. And it'll be free to play as well at launch. And this could be interesting, but we'll have to wait and see to try this one out. Anyway, guys, that's it for MMO News this week. I'll see you next time. Later, guys.